Hey guys, it's your pal Victor here, and we're about to volunteer as tribute to watch the latest film from the Hunger Games universe, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Find out what we thought right now. Hey guys, it's your pal Victor here from Cult Classics, and we just got out of watching the latest installment in the Hunger Games franchise. And you're like, how did we get another Hunger Games movie? Didn't that story wrap up? Well, this is a prequel. It's called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and it's the origin of Donald Sutherland's the primary antagonist in the Hunger Games films. Donald Sutherland's character, President Coriolanus Snow, here played as a young man by British actor Tom Blythe, and we pick up right when, you know, the soon aftermath, 3 years after the Civil War in America that became Pan Am. And you know, it's a riches to riches to rags story. It's actually done really well, and you know, the main thing I can say about this movie is one of the things I hate about prequels is it usually feels like they're just remaking the movie just with slightly different characters. It's like, oh, everything that you enjoyed in these movies, it already happened, just with slightly different characters and the exact same dialogue, which is why I hated the Continental, you know, the John Wick prequel series. Oof, don't get me started. But what I will say about this is that everything flows naturally from this. The Hunger Games in this is the 10th Hunger Games. Viewership is down. There's a chance that the Hunger Games might end because the people in, you know, the capital are not into the bread and circuses, to the fact that it's never been hosted before and they get a weatherman to host it. So it's also the origin somewhat of the Caesar Flickerman character here. Different Flickerman, Lucretius, played by Jason Schwartzman, who could be Caesar's father or grandfather. Lots of little Easter eggs like that, but not to the point where they're annoying. I will say, if you can keep your eyes peeled early on, there is a really neat little Easter egg tribute to Philip Seymour Hoffman's Plutarch Heavensbee character. Just keep your eyes open, look for that Heavensbee name, you'll find it. Not any more spoilers to be found here, but what I will tell you is this pretty much tells you where the mindset of President Snow in the films comes from. You know, he seems like a good enough guy, and this is one of those stories where, like, the antagonist of the film, you know, he's got some shades of gray to him, you know, might not be the worst person ever, you know. It's kind of like that One Bad Day thing, sort of the way the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film works, because you kind of feel bad for him. He's in bad circumstances, and these lead to some questionable choices. The rest of the supporting cast here is actually really well done, especially Rachel Zegler's character, who's really, this is her third movie ever after Shazam and West Side Story, and she's really good in this. She's playing a character named Lucy Baird Gray, who seems to be the sort of the impetus for Snow having some interest in Katniss in the films later on. She's sort of a proto Katniss character. She's sort of a wandering minstrel folk singer, you know, like a Romani sort of is the easiest way, or, you know, a hippie sort of character, you know. And she gets reaped, and he has to be her mentor. They develop a relationship, and this is the most interesting stuff in the movie, where you see a lot of the stuff that you see in the Hunger Games later come into being, especially Viola Davis's character, who seems to be like the prototype for a lot of things you see in the future films, from, you know, the mutants to the fashion. She's playing like this weird kind of mad scientist character, sort of a cross between like evil Oprah meets like Dr. Frankenfurter, sort of meets David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. I mean, I feel like that's a very spot on analogy, and if you check this movie out, I think you'll kind of agree with me. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me. But overall, Tom Blythe's really good in this. So is Rachel Zegler, and so is Peter Dinklage, playing kind of, again, a kind of Plutarch Heavensby XP. There's XPs in this movie for a lot of the main characters, but it doesn't feel like they're being shoved down your throat. In fact, I will say this movie kind of snowed me in I was like, oh, this is just an origin story. But it's also a Hunger Games movie. And the way they handle that in this movie is really clever. And there's a lot of ingenuity to it. What I will say is it's almost 3 hours long. And it feels like two different movies. The same thing that Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 had going on. Where the first half is like super interesting. The second half is kind of like this slower, like epilogue sort of post-war diary thing, and that's kind of how this movie feels too. And for the runtime in this movie, I feel like the relationship between Lucy Baird and Snow should be given more time to breathe and cut out some of the mentor-mentee stuff from earlier in the movie for characters who kind of don't have much going on. But everything in this movie sort of makes sense. I just feel like choices could have been made in different areas to make it a little bit tighter. But overall, I can't complain on the length. It doesn't feel like bloated, and the story is really interesting, unlike, recent MCU fare where the movie's both bloated and uninteresting. So, not to draw the comparison, but there it is. But I will say, if you're a fan of the Hunger Games story itself, if you like dystopian YA films, if you like that stuff, even sort of like The Last of Us, and this isn't as good as The Last of Us, but is that kind of like, relationship amongst the post-dystopian, if that's your vibe, you should check this movie out. It's actually pretty good. I dug it. I will watch it again. And when I see this movie again, I'm going to play it before I watch the other movies, because it feels like it feeds naturally from there, unlike other prequels where it feels like just a pseudo sequel. So yeah, check out The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is theaters this week from Lionsgate. Thanks to Frost Communications and Movies More Fun for letting us watch this movie. And check out some more reviews coming this week here on Cult Classics. See you guys.